Alright, let's get this one over with. I know you've probably heard me mouth about this coaster like crazy over the past couple of weeks. It had its own video, it had an off ride thing, it ranked pretty high in my top 8 list at Dorney Park, and bunch of other things as well also happened. But yeah, this is Iron Menace. It is a B&M Dive Coaster located at Dorney Park. It opened just this year in May. And let's just say it's a very good ride. Iron Menace at Dorney Park in Allentown, Pennsylvania has a length of 2,169 feet, a height of 160 feet, drop of 152 feet, speeds of up to 64 miles per hour with 4 inversions and a beyond vertical drop of 95 degrees, and also has 4 inversions featuring an Immelman, zero G roll, an incline loop, and corkscrew. It also has 2 trains that has 3 cars on it, with 7 across row seating, which could fit 21 riders per train. Of the many B&M dive coasters out there, this is certainly one of the most unconventional ones. However, it's sort of middle of the road compared to other B&M roller coasters that I've personally have ridden. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why that's the case, why I believe I even ranked it higher on my top 8 list, and why I think this ride may not be all the hype. However, that's just my personal opinion, and we're going to talk all about that in my review of Iron Menace.
Now get ready, here we go.
Before we get into the ride layout, let's talk about some of the positives outside the ride. And that starts all the way off with the steel yard. Thanks to Iron Menace, we now have the steel yard as a whole nother section in Dorney Park. And it really ties everything together. I'm glad that they got Possessed involved, and they also rethemed their flying scooter attraction that is right next door. And with that, they also added a lot of immersion to the inside of the queue as well when you enter McTavish Steel, which sort of is like this steel mill kind of factory. And basically, the whole point of the ride is that you are riding this brand new machine that has been created. There are sounds in the station, there's some creepy laughter going up the lift hill, getting you anticipated to basically ride this brand new machine that has been created. The theming, without question, is certainly the best at this ride compared to most of the other rides in Dorney Park. But some of the other things I really like about it is just the presence. When you're driving up to Dorney Park, this is the first thing you see. You go right up to that inclined loop before you turn into the parking lot, and it really gets you excited for the day. Once you pull down your over the shoulder restraint, it's a massive vest restraint. I think it's rather comfortable. I know a lot of people don't really like it. This is also my first dive coaster, so I can't really base it off of the other dive coasters that don't have this vest restraint. So I'm totally okay with it. I'm used to it because Gatekeeper uses the same exact restraints. So I just went with it knowing that these restraints are going to be a little more comfortable, at least for me. You depart the station once the doors open and you head up this 160-foot height to the top. It's a pretty solidly quick climb to the top. You level out and then you hang over the first drop. If you're sitting in the front two cars, you really get a really cool sensation, kind of like dangling there, like putting your arms out to just watch it all hang before you're suddenly let go and you are sent over yourself 95 degrees beyond vertical. It's a very cool drop, and I'm really happy I got to experience that in the front row before because it's a really cool sensation when you are in the front row. And that takes you into your first inversion, the Immelman. To my knowledge, like every single dive coaster and their mother has this exact same inversion except for one at the first thing. So it's a very standard element. Immelmans are great. I can't complain about Immelmans. I think they're just very solid inversions to begin with. After that, it takes you into a pretty snappy zero G roll that kind of glides you over yourself a little bit. And that takes you into what I believe to be the most intense moment on the ride. And in my opinion, the most intense moment in Dorney Park rides, period, the inclined loop. This inversion is super intense. It's so easy to gray out on this thing. And every single time I've ridden this ride, which has been 3 at the moment, I have grayed out on this loop, going into it and going out of it. It's the most intense part of the ride. You go through it so quickly, and it is really, really intense. After that, you hit a corkscrew that goes over the final brake run before you turn 180 degrees to the left into the brake. What I really like about this layout is that it's right to the point. Drop, loop, 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 back to the brake. Everything just happens back to back to back, and it just makes the ride even more exciting, and it just gets right to the point. There's no extra pause, there's no mid course break. It just does it all right then and there. And I really like that they're trying to make rides, even though it does feel like it's on the shorter side, I like that it's getting those elements out of the way so that you're able to get the full experience. Where I kind of got off the ride and I honestly felt rather satisfied, even though it was a little bit on the shorter side, but I also went into the ride knowing it was going to be shorter. But now let's get into the cons of this ride. And unfortunately, there's quite a bit. Number one, for a ride that is made by B&M, known for their reliability and their smoothness, this ride is not that smooth. It unfortunately has a rattle. For some reason, it has a rattle at most of the valleys. I don't know if it's something like with the supports. I don't know if it's the train. I don't know what it is, but it just shouldn't have this rattle, at least by now. And it's rather unfortunate that it is not the smoothest ride that I have ridden. Now, the smoothness can easily be fixed. If you sit closer to the middle by the track, it's actually pretty smooth. I got a ride right in the center in the second row, and it was glass smooth. But once you get to the outer seats, like the wing seats, you definitely start to feel the vibration a little bit. It didn't really dampen the ride for me that much because I felt like the intensity was certainly more prominent to where I could bypass the roughness of it. But wow, you definitely feel a little bit of a vibration or a shake. Also, that turnaround. Let's talk about that turnaround because there's definitely some misalignment issue there. When you take in that left turn, you see, not feel, not just feel it, you physically see everybody sort of make a push forced to the right side, and it is a sudden jolt that could really be a turnoff for a lot of people who are on this ride that may like it at first. So I don't know what they have to do in the off season for this ride, but if I were Dorney Park, I would be looking there first to see what I could do to alleviate that as soon as possible. Another issue that I had actually didn't have anything to do with the ride, but with the queue space. And what's really good about this is that they actually already started to make changes on it, and that is shade. There was little to no shade in the queue outside of that first little section of the McTavish Street Factory, but once you if you watch the vlog that I put out, you can actually see that they were actually already making more shade barriers for further out, and I think that's a super welcome change. Huge shout outs to Dorney Park for doing that and for knowing ahead of time that hey, this is probably something that we have to do. And they were already one step ahead of everything and said we're going to put more shading down for Iron Menace if the queue were to expand more outwards. So that's a huge plus. It's not what I'm going to discuss because they already were starting to fix it, which is great. Dorney Park really hit a home run with this roller coaster. It's truly a one of a kind experience that has been nothing but enjoyable for me to say and use as my 100th roller coaster. But with that being said, I think that the improvements that they're making to Iron Menace's queue is truly very welcome. But there's certainly a lot of things that have to be done to really try to improve this ride as much as possible for it to be ranked any higher. The intensity is truly the winning factor of this ride, especially with its theming. The whole entire area of the steel yard really is perfect to really tie in this ride all together with the idea of Iron Menace. Iron Menace is truly a welcoming attraction for Dorney Park and one that fits extremely well into their coaster lineup. And perhaps this is a ride that I have to revisit down the road to really see if it truly deserves to stay where it is in my top 8. If you liked my review of Iron Menace, leave a like down below, comment, subscribe, and always thank your ride operators, and have a fantastic rest of your day. Goodbye!
Here we go.